Dark Shadows is the worst Tim Burton movie ever made. Worse than Planet of the Apes. Worse than Alice in Wonderland. Worse than Charlie and the Chocolate Factory if you really hated that one. I don't think that's nearly as bad as the two I just mentioned, but some people hate it more. It puts, well, even I think Alice in Wonderland is the worst. This one puts that movie to shame. Oh my god, there aren't enough words to describe. Like, I just need to take a deep breath and collect my thoughts, and I'll do my best to describe what happens in this movie.
1972. My beloved Collinwood.
The Collins family.
Who the hell is this?
I'm a vampire, madam.
Yeah.
He's not staying with us forever, is he? I like him.
Oh, super flat.
Welcome home, Barnabas Collins.
How soon can the horses be ready?
We don't have horses. We have a Chevy.
Okay, first off, I'm aware this was based on a soap opera, sort of a fantasy soap opera from the 70s, and I never watched it. Was it from the 70s or from the 80s? Like, this is how little I know about this. I'm like, this is a thing that exists. I did minimal research. I looked up, like, clips just to kind of see what it was, and it's one of those where they did one taping of everything, and all the bloopers are in the show, and there's stagehands running around and line flubs, and I can see why people attach to it, but... So I don't know what resemblance it bears to that show, if any, but I could tell one thing about watching the little bits and pieces of Dark Shadows. It took itself seriously. As a soap opera, it kind of has to. I'm sure even if it was silly, it took itself seriously. This movie sort of proves once and for all that not only does Tim Burton, people will accuse Tim Burton of like being locked up in his own head and only able to do the same thing over and over, and he's not a very good writer. We know. But not just that, I think Tim Burton has contempt for the audience in a way that we won't become obvious to you until you watch this movie. It was hintings of it in Alice in Wonderland, and it just comes full force in this. Tim Burton, he both thinks you're stupid and hates you for existing. That's how bad this movie is. It is so unbelievably awful. Okay, so what's it about? People... You kind of get the gist from the trailer, but there's this fellow named Barnabas Collins, and he's an upstanding fellow, and he runs Collinwood, and it's a port town, and there's canneries, and he's very rich and very prosperous, but there's a scullery maid, sorry I have to do this accent, there's a scullery maid who loves him, and he doesn't love her back, and so she puts a curse on him, and she kills his beloved, and turns him into a vampire, and locks him in a box, and he wakes up 200 years later to find that he's in the 70s, and that's the basic premise. That's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. That could be kind of either funny or a little scary. This movie it's painfully unfunny. You may have seen from the trailers, like, the joke is that he's this old vampire and he's in the 70s and he doesn't get the 70s. And he's like, where will the horses be ready? We have a Chevrolet! You know, and he, like, what is this sorcery to a television? Which I think is already a cliche line. People from the past, like, seeing television and saying, what is this sorcery? But if you saw that, that's the joke of the entire movie, and it is not once funny. And every scene, instead of just sort of making a quick montage of little silly things like that, every scene is really long and drawn out and is extremely painfully, like, corny and not funny, and there's, like, puns that aren't funny, and the whole joke is, haha, this guy's from the 1700s, and he doesn't get that he's in the 70s. And, like, but here's what I want to most talk about, which is the character of Barnabas Collins. The character, huge air quotes around that. First of all, the acting from every single person in this entire movie, even Ava Green, is that her name? Yeah, I think Ava Green is the woman playing the villain, I believe. And I was gonna look up the name of the woman playing the love interest, and I just forgot, so I don't know her name. It's weird. It's not an easy to remember name. Michelle Pfeiffer's. Anyway, I know some of the people in it. My point is, Eva Green is about the closest thing to a good performance in this, which is surprising considering some of the names that are in the movie, but she's still bad. Every single person in this whole thing is bad, because the writing is like, there's no room for anything to breathe in it. Like, Elena Bonham Carter's character, I'll get to in just a second, but I gotta stop rambling and focus. Barnabas Collins. He's supposed to be a good fellow who, like, brings industry to Collinwood and everybody loves and admires and looks up to, and they say that he's a kind man or whatever, but he's not. If you've seen in the trailers, he's doing his, like, restrained, embarrassed Johnny Depp thing. That is every line. When he's supposed to be in love with his fiancée, he acts that way. Like, he kind of doesn't even smile. There's no chemistry there for the 5 seconds we see them together before she's dead and you're supposed to be sad. And it is such a train wreck. It is neither funny nor dramatic, and it is trying so hard to be both, and it's just so gross. The character of Barnabas Collins is a despicable piece of shit. Like, I hate this character. I don't know much about how he was in the original Dark Shadows, but Johnny Depp gives him no dignity. There's no nuance to his performance. He's like, I am sorrowful that Collinwood has fallen into disrepair in my absence. Because while he's been gone, the witch, the woman who cursed him, she's a witch, so she lives for hundreds of years, and she's like got a big fishing industry there now, and they're pushing the Collinses out because their little cannery can't stand up to the big industry of, oh god, it's so bad! And anyway, but here's the thing, so you're supposed to like Barnabas, right? He knows how to run a good business, and he's kind, and people look up to him, even if he's a little cold, I assume. And he's a piece of shit. There's no emotion, there's no remorse on his face, and he's like, I'm a vampire, I'm a hideous creature. But he has, like, there's all the things where he eats people, and he eats a lot of people. He eats upwards of 20 people in this movie, are played for laughs, but they're not funny. And then he's supposed to be sad about having killed these people, but he's not really, and he's just sort of, he comes out of the grave and he wants to bring Collinwood back to its former glory. And he wants to let the Collinses, which is a small family, it's about a family of 4 by now, he wants them to return to their prosperous days. But the Collinses themselves are assholes. Every single one of them. The Michelle Pfeiffer character she has barely any defined character, but she's just sort of a snobbish, priggish, annoying woman. And the dad is a complete asshole. There's a lot of jokes. He's like, we need to hold a ball. This family has been without balls for too long. And the dad is like, yes, that's what I've been saying for years, and that's his character, and it's just, and yeah, that's not funny, is it? And, the daughter is, a hippie, and she's a wannabe hippie, and she's like, listen to the Carpenters, and I get stoned, and that's her character, and she's a brat, and there's absolutely nothing to like about her. And then the kid is like a creepy kid who, they put eyeshadow on him, first of all. The set design in this is awful. Before he turns into a vampire. First of all, again, he acts like he has no emotion whatsoever before he turns into a vampire, so after he does, there's no difference at all. And he looks like a vampire already. He has the heavy eyeshadow, he has this, like, blanched face, and he has this slick hair, and then he turns into a vampire, and it's like, now he has fangs, and he's whiter, I guess, and he has long fingernails. Everything is that ugly. It is the ugliest Tim Burton movie. Well, no, I guess Alice in Wonderland was uglier. This is more restrained, but it's just, it's a very muted look at the 70s, and it's gross, and it's, anyway. I've got to move on from Barnabas, because that's what I'm most obsessed with, to the other characters, because that's where it really, you see how much of an absolute disgusting character he is. So, the love interest has less screen time in this than Michelle Pfeiffer's majordomo, head of the household character, or Ava Green's antagonist character. She's the love interest, but she's barely in this movie. And I don't remember what her name is in, but the actress, I mean. Her name in the movie is Veronica, I think. Something like that. No, it's not. It's not Veronica. That's who they say her name. Victoria, that's right. Her name is Victoria. They keep getting her name wrong. They call her Veronica at various points in the movie, and it's like, it's funny because it's not. I must focus. So anyway, Victoria is not, she doesn't have a character, and her acting is so bad. Because her character doesn't make sense, I almost feel like she didn't want to be in this movie, like she got cast and then realized how bad it was, and she's just sort of like trying to escape throughout the movie. She barely has any scenes, and then her delivery is so awful. She's like, I love you, Barnabas, and we can never be together because that was the worst line read. We can never be together because I'm in the light and you're in the shadows. It was so awful. And there's no chemistry between them. Here's why Barnabas loves her, by the way. He can't bring himself to love the witch who cursed him. We'll get to why that's awful in a minute. But he loves this other woman because she looks exactly like his dead fiancée. That is the only reason. They make it very clear that that's the only reason. At the same time, you're supposed to care about them. And she's like, I would die for you, Barnabas. And we don't know why. Basically, because they have like 2 scenes together. And then she says, I feel like I can tell you anything. Why? And she's charmed by him because she heard, like, behind her back, the hippie girl asks Barnabas, well, why do you like her? And he says she has nice, strong, childbearing hips. And it's like, I guess. And then later, like, he's like, I have spoken of my love for you to no one. And she said, that's funny, I heard that you said I had nice, strong, childbearing hips. So if I heard that and I was her, I would have been like, no, you know, like, wow, he's not attractive, and he doesn't act attractive. He never shows any emotion. Like, he says, I'm sorry that I killed people, but you don't feel it. I lost my love, but you don't feel it. I hate this evil witch, but you don't feel it. And you especially don't feel it, because here's the kicker. Here's the moment where I was like, I'm trying to kind of like the movie, the moment where it shuts off entirely. The first time he sees the witch after Angelique, is I believe her name, Ava Green's character, the first time he sees her after being locked in that box for 200 years, and she's like, make love to me, and and he does. He does not, like, swat her away and go, you know, you evil witch, you destroyed my family and killed my parent. She kills his parents too, and he's aware of this. Like, they try to make it a twist at the end when she tells him, but he said he knew she killed his parents early in the movie. Oops, writing flub, I suppose. It feels like it was being written as it went. Like, the ending, we'll get there. But, so instead of being like, you know, you ruined my life and you took my parents from me and killed my lover or whatever, he's like, she's got nice tits, and so he fucks her anyway. I'm not kidding. And he fucks her while or just after talks about the girl he loves presently and how she's going to kill her if he doesn't love her instead. And he's like, they're making out while she says this. And I guess the idea is it's supposed to be funny. And here's the thing. A lot of the horrible things about these characters, because they're all horrible, every last one of them is disgusting, could be easily written off as, oh, it's supposed to be funny, and you're supposed to hate them, or whatever. There's the thing where he's sitting around a campfire with a bunch of hippies, and they're all like, that's deep, man, because he was like, I was locked in a box and stared into the deepness of my soul for 200 years, and they're like, it's deep, man. And then he ends the campfire thing by eating all of them, and it's supposed to be funny, but it's not. Like, you kind of go, oh, they didn't deserve that, because they're not built as, like, annoying, I hate you hippies, and you already hate Barnabas. Like, you don't like him and think he deserves a little food out of these useless human beings. You could play it that way. Dark comedy is fine, but it's not funny. It's just awkward. It is such an awkward movie. So anyway, after he makes love to this woman, this witch, then he's like, but this can be the last time, for I can never love you. What? You know, like, yeah, no wonder she hates you. You're leading her on, which the very basis of her character is that she's in love with Barnabas and hates him for rejecting her for 200 years. Like, she becomes a successful career woman thing. She runs this evil business and whatever, and she hasn't gotten over this, really? Like, I don't know. I guess it's supposed to be funny, but... So, okay, so here's where it gets sticky. First of all, you may have noticed I'm not describing the plot of this movie. There isn't really any plot. He comes back, he tries to rebuild the family business, there are various interactions with all the different characters, none of which really make sense or end up in an arc. He ends up sending I said the dad of the Collins family was useless. He ends up sending him away because he's been stealing from the family. And there's a scene where the little boy, the son, just starts crying, like bawling his eyes out because his daddy chose to leave rather than stay with him. Because this vampire told him, leave this house unless you want to be a better father. And he's like, I can't do this. So he leaves. And the kid bawls his eyes out, and that's the last you ever see of the dad. That is the last you ever see of that, and it's creepy, and it's really gut-wrenching, and you hate Barnabas, and you hate all these characters, and you kind of feel bad for the little boy. The little boy you can't hate as a character simply because he doesn't have a character. So... you know, maybe you can't hate him. His acting is bad. Everybody's acting is bad in this whole movie. The worst is the love interest, played by whatever her name is, starts with an E, I don't know. And gotta move on, gotta focus on other things. Helena Bonham Carter has a character in this, and she is the psychiatrist. Of course she does, because it's, you know, it's Johnny Depp, Tim Burton, and Helena Bonham Carter, and yeah, I guess who did the music, and Danny Elfman, you know, it's one of those. But she's the psychiatrist who's supposed to be making the little boy feel better, and, spoilers, here's the thing, spoilers, but you don't go see this movie, it's so awful, it made me sick. And, what happens is, she wants to help Barnabas get better, right, because he wants to be human again, he doesn't want to be a vampire, so she puts human blood in his veins and takes out vampire blood. Which, first of all, that's kind of a weird thing, but we have a movie where a vampire fucks a witch and his stuff is still working, apparently, so we're not